The NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. You want to know about WynnBET? It's now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today. Bet $100 and get a $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Bowl Challenge. $250 cash and a $250 gift card is up for grabs exclusively on the SGPN app.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You have to be kidding me. That is impossible.
I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants it?
Jordan Davis, dog. Jalen Hurts, dog. AJ Brown, dog. How many of you want to eat a doggy tonight?
Welcome in to the NFL Gambling Podcast. It is a Monday, which means he's Ryan McIntyre. I am Rod Villagomez, and we will take a look back at the Week 14 in the NFL. Ryan, I think we need to get some video folks on an intro. So if you out there are watching and you have any sort of video knowledge whatsoever, come think of a good video intro for us on the Monday show. That way we can roll it. They're not staring at my ugly face. Yours, Ryan, fine. Mine, not so much.
No, you're too kind. I'm ugly too. We definitely would like some intro video. I think that'd be better than looking at us. Just wait for the intro music to end. Although I do like listening to that intro song. Shout out to the guys that put that together. Week 14 in the books. It's crazy. We are on to week 15. Everybody in the NFL has 4 games left. So that means what? We got 64 remaining NFL regular season games before we start the playoffs.
Here's what's nutty. We started out the season thinking one thing. Things panned out a different way and in a couple of ways. And now we're back to thinking another way. Teams that were hot that we thought were going to be great fizzled out. Now all of a sudden they're hot again. This was about as wacky a week as I can remember in so many different ways because of just the way that games shook out that I didn't think were going to shake out that way. And if you'd have told me in week 3 that we'd be talking about certain teams now in playoff hunts, I thought you'd be crazy. So, I mean, look, man, this just goes to show that there is probably no lack of entertainment ever in the NFL.
No doubt. I mean, who would have thought, like, just for example, right off the top of my head, the Carolina Panthers with 4 weeks remaining control their destiny in the NFC South. They just cut Baker last week. They fired Matt Rule earlier in the year. PJ Walker got hurt. Sam Darnold's been hurt. Now he's back. They traded Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the NFL, it's a marathon. It really is, and each week is its own week. And it's like what happened the previous week does not carry over into the new week. So it's crazy. The Lions, Panthers, Jaguars, all peaking at the right time coming down the stretch.
It's crazy. And I've started listening to that American football podcast that is one of our competitors, I'm sure, for the sports world. But I love sports history. That podcast came out, just listening to the roots of the sport itself and then thinking about where we're at now as far as what we start talking about. It's just this weird, like, I don't know, we're talking about Lions and Panthers and Bears and, it's
my.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, I mean, look, week 14 was nuts. Again, we're here to break it down from a betting aspect. So I guess we should probably just dive in because we're going to hit all these storylines as we start scooping down the games, right? So let's dig right in with Thursday night. The craziness began because it was the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the LA Rams in LA, which Las Vegas once roamed as home a couple of times. And Vegas came in as 6-point favorites, 6.5-point favorites, depending on where you got your line. And in fact, if you want to know where I'm getting all of my lines from, our friends at Odds Trader has it for you, all lined up in a pretty little row. But it was Las Vegas coming in to SoFi Stadium and just walking away with a loss, a 1-point loss, 17-16. Could not put the LA Rams away. even though the Rams tried very, very much to give that game to the Raiders. Yeah, I mean, LA came back with 14 fourth quarter points to walk away with a 1-point win, thereby covering their 6-point spread.
I thought this was a dream crusher game for the Raiders. They win this one, they would have won now 4 in a row, and they would have got to 6 and 7 overall, one back of the last seed in the AFC coming down the stretch. They got New England on deck as well. This was an unacceptable loss. I mean, Baker Mayfield was there 10 minutes, and they gave him the playbook, and he found a way to manufacture 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes. Not much to say other than inexcusable if you're a Vegas Raider fan.
So what cracks me up about this, right, is that Baker Mayfield is just a cast off almost wherever he goes, right? The Browns were like, yeah, we're done. And then he goes to Carolina. They're like, you know what? We got Baker Mayfield now. We got our guy. Okay, PJ Walker, your turn. So like now all of a sudden he shows up in LA and no Cooper Kupp, right? None of this like explosive weapons that all of the LA quarterbacks have been used to having, Stafford and Goff and all that, right? He's got to make do with the shell of a Rams team. Comes in and he wins. I mean, the script writers in there in LA, they need a raise after what they gave us on Thursday night.
Yeah, no, I thought Baker was really good in this game. And he had everything going against him. Like you said, he was there. Sean McVay, when he gave him the game ball, he was all there for a cup of coffee. That's how long he had been there. And like you said, they're depleted injury-wise at the receiver position, the O-line. And for him to manufacture a 98-yard touchdown drive to win it, shout out to Baker.
98 yards, Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, when that punt nestled at the 2, I legit thought the game was over. I thought it was done. I thought there was no way Baker could well, a couple of timely penalties as well helped that cause too. So let's not give it all to Baker. The Raiders did find a way to Raider. But yeah, I mean, that drive was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think Josh McDaniels didn't think that they could lose the game. He kind of coached like, hey, they're not going to score 17 points. Derek Carr only throws 20 passes on the night, and 2 of them were interceptions too. So not a good night for Derek Carr as well, or Josh McDaniels.
Josh Jacobs 1 yard short of 100 yards for those bettors who had him at 100 yards. Like me, I had him going over 100, and that didn't happen. So I was a little frustrated on that. But yeah, I mean, look, the Raiders now, they are 5-8. Rams are 4-9. I don't think the Rams have a shot at the postseason. They would have to win out and have everybody else lose for the most part. Vegas, I think their chances have slipped away. Neither one of these teams are mathematically eliminated, but by all rights and accounts, their path is very difficult. So, yeah, it's just going to be tough for them.
Yeah, to update people, there's only 3 teams that have been officially eliminated so far from the NFL playoffs. In the NFC, J-Mark Chicago Bears are the first one, and only one in the NFC. And then the AFC, you got Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, and then you got the Houston Texans, who almost pulled off the upset of the year yesterday.
Oh, my God. We'll talk about that
Crazy.
in a second. Yeah, over-under on this one was set about 41.5. Obviously, it's a Thursday night special, so it only reached 33 and did not get you that over. I don't know that you're betting overs on any Thursday night game anymore. I'd rather lose to the over than, lose not betting the under.
Yeah, no, I feel like every Thursday night game goes under this year.
Yep. I mean, I'm pretty sure it has with a couple of exceptions. So, all right, let's talk about a game that certainly did not, was not in danger of the under at all. And that was the Minnesota Vikings taking on the, dare I say, resurgent Detroit Lions. Minnesota going to Detroit and losing 34-23. They fall to 10-3. Ryan, you've been saying it all season long. Minnesota is probably the most fake team with a winning record that's now in double digits. So, I mean, they actually proved it this time around.
Yeah, no, I locked up the Lions -2.5. It's crazy. I mean, you got a losing record team that Vegas had as a favorite going against a team that's 10-2. That's tell you all you need to know about the Minnesota Vikings. Now on the year, pulling up the Vikings, they have a point differential of -1 despite being 10-3. Seems like they get outgained by 200 yards a game every time they play now. they're kind of a fraudulent team. I'm not kind of. They are a fraudulent team. I think everybody is licking their chops as a wild card team. Like, I want to play the Vikings in the first round. And Kirk Cousins had a good day too. But the problem with the Vikings right now, they can't stop anybody defensively.
Well, the problem is this, and that's Kirk Cousins throwing for 425 yards, but only 2 touchdowns. With a yardage total like 425, you figure that a couple more of those should have gone in to the end zone. Dalvin Cook rushing for just 23 yards, Ryan. 23 yards for a guy like Dalvin Cook. I mean, granted, it's hard to gain yards when Justin Jefferson has got 223 of them, but by the same token, it's Dalvin Cook. He should have more than 23 yards.
To be honest, Rod, I think the Lions are a better football team than the Vikings right now. I know one team has the 10-3 record, but if they play again tomorrow, I'm siding with the Lions again. They were better in the trenches as well. I mean, the only reason the Vikings didn't get blown out was because of Justin Jefferson.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, the guy's just fantasy gold. He's real life NFL gold. Like, he's Justin Jefferson. There's nothing more you can say about him. But on the other side of the ball, you're right. I mean, Detroit really has started to show that they're scrappy. But we said this earlier in the season too. There was like a few weeks in there where Detroit was putting together good games, and we were like, they're scrappy. But then they went back to being the Lions. But now they're scrappy again, and that's Jared Goff. He's had a good last 3 weeks. I mean, nice solid last 3 weeks. This week included 27 to 39, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, CJ Moore was their leading carrier, which should tell you something. He had a carry for 42 yards. But DJ Chark is back. 6 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. This is 2 weeks in a row now for Chark. So it's not a bad Chark, whatever, same thing.
Yeah, I knew what you mean.
Yeah, right. So it's 2 weeks in a row now. You're hopeful if you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, I think there's much hope if you're a Lions fan right now. You look at what they've done since the calendar turned to November. They've won 5 out of 6. They've covered 6 straight. Their only loss straight up was to the Bills on Thanksgiving in a game that they were right there to win as well. Currently, they're sitting, a game and a half out of the playoffs, so they need a little bit of help. But, I mean, they got the Jets, Panthers, Bears, and Packers coming down the stretch in these last 4 games. It's a favorable schedule. The Lions, I think if they get to 9-8, they got a shot to get that 7th seed. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're watching the video, you just saw the moment of processing that went on in my brain as I took that in. But I mean,
they started 1-6, and now they're 6-7. I mean, they're rolling.
Yeah, they are. And just like you said, they're ripped off 5 straight against the spread. I don't know that I'd be afraid to bet them against the spread again next week as well. It's just I mean, what a world we live in that now we're talking about the Detroit Lions possibly making the playoffs.
Oh, they're biting the kneecaps.
They really are. All right. So again, just like you said, it was about 2.5 points that Minnesota was an underdog in this one, obviously. And they were my dog in the lock, dog, and tease portion of it, which I didn't do well. Got my lock, got all 3 of my teases, but that I just whiffed on Minnesota. My bad. Over under on this one was 51. Got it at 57. So obviously the over hits there. I mean, look, do what you will with Minnesota over the next 4 games, because we're going to either see them charge ahead and avenge this loss, or they're going to fold.
Yeah, no, I agree. It seems like 2 teams headed in the opposite directions.
Indeed. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is the New York Football Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo now 10-3. The New York Jets fall to 7-6 as they lose to the Bills 20-12. The Jets were 10-point underdogs in this one, 9.5-point underdogs. So obviously, if you took the Jets and the points, if you got them at 10, you're pretty happy. Even if you got them at 9.5, you're pretty happy. I don't know too many people taking the Bills minus 10 with the way we've seen the Bills kind of implode every once in a while. I know they're 10-3, but against the spread, they're not necessarily performing all that well. So again, this is the Buffalo Bills who we expected to blow out the New York Jets. They didn't, Ryan. So are we concerned?
I don't know if I'm concerned because the weather was bad, but maybe a little concerned, I think. They kind of just seem like they're going through the motions right now, and they're going to turn it back on when we get to the playoffs. But we've seen this too. Like, not every team could turn it on. The Bills were able to do it last year and get as hot as anybody going into the playoffs. So they got a big one Saturday night where they can basically put away the AFC East with the win over the Miami Dolphins. I think they actually can clinch the AFC East with the win because that would put them up 3 with 3 to go. As for the Jets, I mean, they've kind of a little bit of a skid as of late. Mike White was hammered throughout the day. I think he was sacked at least 3-4 times, and when he got sacked, I mean, he got his ass hit hard. I mean, it was he had to be helped up multiple times by his offensive lineman. Got knocked out for a couple plays as well. Jets are not a good offensive team. Great defensively, but not good offensively.
No, and really, again, for Mike White, 27 of 44, 268, but no touchdowns. I mean, he didn't throw an interception, which is fine, but he's not putting any in the end zone, which obviously you want. Garrett Wilson, leading receiver for them, 6 catches, 78 yards. But Zonovan Knight, once again, as the running back that you probably should have picked up off of waivers if you're a fantasy player. Definitely a bright light, I guess, in that New York Jets team. 17 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown again. Just looking very solid for this team. I don't know what's going to happen in this backfield, but he should be a part of it, I think.
Yeah, and then talking about the Jets, like playoff wise, I mean they're right there, but they don't win the tiebreaker with New England because they got swept by New England. And they've struggled on the road in the month of November, and they need to go 2-0 on this homestand coming up with Detroit and Jacksonville to have a shot to get into postseason.
Yeah, and the Chargers really just put themselves right in that conversation now after last night because they, it was them in New England sort of, I guess, battling it out for that last spot, and the Chargers have put themselves in that conversation. So it's going to be interesting with these next 4 games as far as which side of the world it swings on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be fun. A lot of playoff scenarios that will be thrown out here on the NFL Gambling Podcast.
Indeed. All right, we talked about disappointing game for the Bills, even though they won. Josh Allen, 16 of 27, 147 yards and a touchdown, was the leading rusher once more for this team. 10 carries, 47 yards and a touchdown. But I think the big surprise comes in the fact that it was Dawson Knox that led the team in receiving, 4 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Ryan, where was Stephon Diggs?
Every time the Jets play Stephon Diggs, they give him fits with Sauce matching up with him. So seems to have his number so far this year in his rookie year. So yeah, no, the Bills, man, I'm trying to figure them out. Like they're so inconsistent so far this year. I know that they've won 4 in a row all of a sudden, and I mean, you can't complain. You're finding ways to win games. It's the NFL, but I mean, they failed to cover in 3 out of 4. So it's an interesting team going forward because they still have the number 1 seed in their own destiny as well. So, I mean, I think they're going to take care of business, but it would be nice if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan like Adam Pelletier to see them stack some impressive wins together going into the playoffs to put Bills Mafia more at ease.
Look, I know they don't ask how they ask how many, but I mean, at this point, you're going to have to put together some pretty impressive resume tape if you want to beat some of the better teams that are in that division, because there's some really good ones out there to have to beat. Over under on this one, 44, did not come anywhere near. It was 32. So, whatever. It's Buffalo. They'll probably come out and stomp next week and just put out a ton of points because that's what they do. They're wildly inconsistent.
Yeah. They got the Dolphins. So Saturday night game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, we're in for a treat on Saturday night. Miami's going to want to avenge the game we just watched them play last night, which we'll get to obviously in a second. But let's talk first about our sponsors as I queue up the correct bed. We'll take a quick break and come back and talk about more of week 15. But before we do, you ready to win money and booster odds? WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. We're bringing the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. You get exclusive rewards right at your fingertips with Wynn Rewards on WynnBET. You're looking to get involved in a same-game parlay? WynnBET's your home with their WynnBET Build Your Own Bet, letting you customize the bet you want to make. Great promos, odds, payouts. They're all happening right now at WynnBET. WynnBET has what you need to win. You ready to play? Sign up today. Get a special offer. Bet $100, win $100. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET so they know that we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older or present in the state where playthrough. WynnBET is available. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We're back with Underdog Fantasy, and if you haven't signed up already, you can still get a 100% deposit match up to $100 when you use the promo code SGPN. Just go to underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match. Underdog is great for their weekly battle royale format as well as getting an early start with their playoff best ball. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN. We'll continue on the Week 15 slate as we move to the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Baltimore stealing away with a win. I did have this as my tease. I even teased them up to 8. They didn't need it. They won it outright, 16-14 against the Steelers. Came in as about 1.5 point favorites, 1 point favorite, depending on where you are. The Pittsburgh Steelers came in as 1 point favorites, 1.5 point favorites. Obviously did not cover as they were the losers in this game. But I think the biggest loser is Mr. Pickett. Unfortunately, out now, had an injury. In walks Mitch Trubisky, throws 3 interceptions, and still almost wins the game. Ryan, what the hell, bud?
Rod, is it not the same game every single time these two teams play? 16-14, 17-14, or 16-13, 13-10, maybe 20-17 if we really get points. It's the same game every time. I'm with you. I teased Baltimore as well. I thought that was the easiest tease option of the day because when these two teams play, it's going to come down to the wire every single time, especially over the last, 15 years that we've had Harbaugh and Tomlin, both in their respective organizations. Fantastic game. Big win for the Ravens. They needed it bad to stay in first in the AFC North. They're 9-4 with 4 to go. Injuries at the quarterback, though. I mean, both teams injured at the quarterback in this game. So they got to get Lamar back. Sounds like we'll hear a little bit more this week. They got a big one Saturday in Cleveland.
Yeah, what I'm seeing now is that he's probably going to be out again this week. He probably won't be back until I think they said Christmas Eve or something like that. I know he's got at least one more week that I think that he's out, unfortunately for Lamar Jackson. But that means Tyler Huntley's going to have to do it again. But I think what I'm more excited about is the guy that I was hyping all preseason long, and that's J.K. Dobbins. Making his return, 15 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Ripped off a beautiful 44-yarder. I mean, I read somewhere somebody said he didn't look the same on that 44-yarder as he would have before the injury, but damn, he got a 44-yarder. Like, he got 120 yards total. Like, it was a great day for J.K. Dobbins to come back.
Yeah, no, it's I know he's not as explosive as he was, but still, I mean, just to see him rip off a 44-yard run, the Ravens need that. Lamar can't run every single time. We see it. He wears down back-to-back years throughout the regular season. It's crazy with the Ravens. I got their schedule pulled up in front of me. They've won 6 out of 7, but they're not playing good football. In their 6 wins, they have a 3-point win, a 5-point win, a 1-point win, a 2-point win, and then their one loss was a Jaguars loss. So it's an interesting team. It feels like every game they play comes right down to the wire.
Well, because the way they play the game. I mean, they play a really run-heavy game, obviously, even if it's Lamar running it, if it's JK, if it's Gus, if it's the chain marker guys that they hand off to because they just feel like it. It's whoever's running that ball, they love to run the ball. So, obviously, if they're not putting it up through the air a lot, that means more plays. That means closer games. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. But at the same time, they've got to be able to win them. And thankfully, they did against Pittsburgh. Given the fact that Trubisky was trying to literally throw the ball to them every single down or every single play, they still managed to win. It just, or almost lose for that matter.
No, this kind of was a dream crusher game for the Steelers too. I mean, go to 5-8, and now it looks like Tomlin might finally have his first losing season in Pittsburgh. They have maximized as many losses as you can have before the ninth loss that would give him his first losing season ever in Pittsburgh. So for the Steelers, you got to run the table. Start Sunday at Carolina, Vegas, and then back rematch with the Ravens and then the Browns again. So they can do it. It's Tomlin, but they got to get Pickett back. Trubisky was awful yesterday, like you said.
Well, I was actually going to say, with that schedule, that doesn't sound like it's entirely impossible that they can actually. It might be possible for them to not necessarily lose another game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to be right there. To be at the Ravens will be the toughest test, but I think this week at Carolina, they're a dog at Carolina coming up. So I didn't think anybody had that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think so either. All right, let's put a bow on this one. There wasn't much to talk about other than J.K. Dobbins and the fact that Mitch Trubisky is as advertised. 36 points was the over-under on this one. They got to 30. I don't know too many people betting on the over on this game. Hopefully they didn't. The over hadn't hit in like 4 meetings. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a 90% under game like over the last decade. That's an easy under to take.
Absolutely easy under to take. All right. Well, let's move from a game that barely scored any points to a game that scored all the points. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants. Philadelphia really wanting to hammer home that they are and deserve to be the top team in the power rankings. They just stomp the Giants 48-22. They came in as only a touchdown favorite, but walked away with many touchdowns over the Giants in New York, or, East Rutherford, whatever, in New Jersey. But look, man, Philly stepped on the gas, scoring 24 points in the first half. Just did not look back. Scored another 24 in the second half. Ryan, there's not much you can analyze about the Eagles. They're good. Jalen Hurts is good. Miles Sanders is fantastic.
Yep.
What more is there to say about them?
No, I mean, they're rolling right now. They kind of had the hiccup a couple weeks ago against Washington and then got out of Indy alive. But ever since then, they offensively are rolling. Scored 40 against Green Bay, 35 against Tennessee, and now 48 against the Giants. Two teams definitely headed in different directions. The Giants kind of, I feel like we were hinting at it, that they were a little overrated. Their 7-1 or 7-2 record was fraudulent. And since then, they have lost, 4 in a row, and then 3 out of 4, and the one being a tie.
Granted, that stance may lose us a job, but I mean, we have to report the facts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it is the fact that now the Giants are in trouble. They really don't have much to go by, where Daniel Jones only had 169 yards on 18 completions and a touchdown. Tells you something when their leading rusher, right? They've got Saquon Barkley, but their leading rusher was Tyrod Taylor, who had 2 carries for 40 yards and that 32-yarder. That Saquon should have been well in there, right?
Yeah, definitely a day for the Giants to forget about. The most important game of the season, Sunday night in D.C. Both teams are 7-5-1. They just played a couple weeks ago. Everybody remembers a 20-20 tie. It's the kiss your sister game that they say in soccer, the tie. But the Giants, after that, they got to go to Minnesota and Philly still as well. So the schedule is definitely not on the Giants' side coming down the stretch.
Not on the Giants' side, but it doesn't matter who Philly plays. They win. I mean, they didn't once, and that was it. One time this season, they failed to get in the win column. But
yeah, that was a good night.
Yeah, that was a great night for you. Absolutely fantastic night. In fact, you take another one like that. You take another 3 or 4 like that.
No doubt.
All right. So, I mean, again, that just didn't even matter anything. The over-under on this one was 44.5. They scored 70, which just safely did it. So, obviously, if you were taking Philly -7, you were good. And if you took the over, you were good on that as well. Let's talk about Cleveland and Cincinnati, the battle for Ohio. This one a little closer, but still in favor of the Bengals, who now improved to 9-4 as they knock off the Browns 23-10. Look, when I think about this, as far as what to break down, this is a Bengals team that needed to get back onto the good graces. Because even at 9-4, it just felt like they struggled more than they needed to, even though they've won 4 in a row going into this week, or they had won 4 in a row going into this week. It just felt like they were struggling. So for them to come and beat Cleveland as they did, they were 4-point favorites in this, by the way, or 3.5, depending on where you found it. Obviously, they covered, but they needed this win just to prove that they're still good and they could beat bad teams.
Yeah, no, tough loss for the Browns. I actually thought that they were going to be in this game, and a couple turnovers that killed them, backbreakers, and then to give up the flea flicker late to Cincinnati. Deshaun Watson has not played well in 2 games. That's, I think, a fact, and everybody can agree on that. And he's going to have to play better. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, they're 5-8 overall. Playoffs seem to be out of the question now after that loss today. So they had won 2 in a row going into this game, so had a little bit of momentum. But I guess if they get a win over the Ravens and Saints at home and gets back in it coming down the stretch, but I'm thinking no playoffs for Cleveland this year, Rod.
No, not even close. And again, it just comes down to the fact that people are like, well, Deshaun hasn't played a meaningful game in a very long time, letting get back into it. Well, now it's been a couple of games, right? Yeah. But you cannot make that argument to me anymore after you see Baker Mayfield. You can't.
Yeah, and also nobody really feels sorry for him either. Like, I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for the guy. And they gave up a lot of assets to get him, and he's not living up to it. He's not even close right now.
Yeah, that's really what I'm going to probably base every argument that I ever make from now until the end of time. You cannot make an argument to me that quarterback's not getting settled in because Baker Mayfield or because Brock Purdy. Like, if you're bringing in a guy,
Taylor Heineke,
the list goes on and on. If you're bringing in a guy of the caliber of Deshaun Watson, he should have stayed completely game ready. He doesn't. It's not as if he forgot where the gym was. It's not he forgot how to study the playbook. I mean, Baker Mayfield read the damn playbook on the way to LA on an 8-hour plane ride, and he came in and won a National League football game. This guy's had a couple of weeks now on the field, live game action, 276 and a touchdown on 26 completions, but 42 attempts.
Yeah, it wasn't efficient at all. He was awful. As for the Bengals, that's a positive team to talk about because they're 10-3 ATS so far this year, and they lost the first 2 games of the year. So since then, they have covered in 10 out of the last 11. They are going in the right direction. They've won 5 in a row, including the win over Kansas City last week. And they got a couple big road games coming up at Tampa and at New England before the showdown with Buffalo and the Ravens coming down the stretch at home. 2 big home games to end the year.
They're going to need every bit of Joe Burrow going into this. 18 of 33, 239, 2 touchdowns. Did throw that interception. But Joe Mixon, almost 100 yards again, 14 carries, 96 yards. Looked good. Broke off a 40-yarder. But Jamar Chase continues to be Jamar Chase, right? 15 targets, 10 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. So they're going to need to lean on all those guys to get them through the rest of the season. And you're right. They are a team that is heading in a positive direction after somewhat shaky start.
Yeah, they're playing good football. Nobody wants to see them in the playoffs.
Well, unless you're a Bengals fan, then you really want to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, over-under on this one was 47. 33 was the total, so did not get there. Let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we were talking a little bit about this offline. All of a sudden, one of the hotter teams in all of football. They do not want the first pick in the draft, in the 2024 draft, or 2023 draft. They may get it in the 2024 draft, who knows? But they are still holding it off for next year's draft as they beat the Tennessee Titans. Woo, and now how the Titans have fallen. 36-22. Jacksonville came in as 3.5-point underdogs in some spots, obviously covering that with their 14-point win, 2-touchdown win. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, 368, 3 touchdowns on 30 completions. I mean, dare I say he's looking like a first overall pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, no, he played well yesterday, and he talked a little shit too, so I like seeing that. This reminds me of the Vikings and Lions right now. two teams headed in different directions. I think the Jaguars are better than the Titans right now. The Titans happen to have the 2-game lead coming down the stretch, but if the Titans aren't careful, they still got to play at the Chargers and Cowboys in week number 17. Then they got to go to Jacksonville the last game of the year. Now Jacksonville already won in Tennessee, so if Jacksonville can beat Tennessee in week 18 and just be within one game headed into that last game, they would win the division over Tennessee, which seemed improbable 5 weeks ago.
Well, you're Tennessee. This is a 3-game skid that you're on after, pretty much doing fine. Now you've lost 3 in a row. Now you're in trouble. But the biggest problem for Tennessee, I think, is just the fact that they've got nothing past Derrick Henry. It just doesn't feel like they've got anything else. Austin Hooper was the leading receiver for Tennessee, 5 catches, 68 yards, and Tannehill, normal Tannehill numbers, right? 25, 38, 254, 2 touchdowns, but it's past Derrick Henry. They don't really have much.
Yeah, no, it's watching that game yesterday. I said to myself, I'm like, the Jaguars have a better roster than the Titans do. The Titans just have Mike Vrabel and King Henry that just always seem to overachieve. Like you said, the Titans can't win unless they play a certain brand of football and go according to their script. They got to run the ball, stay on schedule, play action. If they get off that and they turn the ball over, they can be beat by anybody. And Trevor Lawrence, like you said, was awesome, going for 3 touchdowns and almost 400 yards, looking all of that first-round pick from a couple years ago.
It looked good for them right off the jump, right? 2 touchdowns to start in the first quarter. Jacksonville got one of their own, but then it was Jacksonville ripping off 26 unanswered, and that basically was it for Tennessee. They can't come back from anything like that, just like you said, because then they got to take the ball out of Henry's hands. But Henry still had 17 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, no doubt. And now for the Jaguars, okay, you got a big win again. Can they put 2 in a row together? They have shown flashes where they went to LA and beat the Chargers by like 30, it felt like. They've beaten the Ravens now. They've beaten Tennessee in Tennessee. They've beaten Vegas. But they seem to never be able to win 2 in a row. They've done it once this year, so we'll see if they can do it again. If they can beat Dallas this weekend, then I think they're definitely a live dog in that AFC South race.
That's basically where we're at this point. I mean, it's funny, as crazy as it is to say that Jacksonville's in the conversation. Jacksonville's in the conversation. And props to it was a tale of 2 tight ends in this game as well, where I talked about Austin Hooper being the leading receiver for the Titans. Well, it was the tight end that was the leading receiver for the Jaguars, but that was Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram had himself a day. 15 targets, 11 catches, 162 yards. Where was this guy several seasons ago when you needed him? 2 touchdowns also on the day. Fantastic performance by a resurgent Evan Ingram, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Right now we're talking playoff scenarios for the Lions and Jaguars and the team we're about to get into as well. Crazy stuff right now.
Can't make this stuff up. Over under on this one, 41.5, got to 58, obviously hit the over. All right, let's talk about another team that scared an NFC in-state rival, and that was the Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Houston came into this game as 17-point underdogs in some spots. I mean, it was mainly 17 across the board. If you could find it fluctuating a little bit here and there, but it was mainly 17 across the board. They come in and only lose by 4 and almost, Ryan, took the damn game altogether.
They should have. They gave the game away. Dallas got lucky as shit. There's no other way to put it. Houston, man, all they had to do was score a touchdown. They got an interception of Prescott on the 4-yard line with 5 minutes to go, 1st and goal, and they can't punch it in to go up 10. It would have put the game away. Then Dak leads them down. Zeke scores. So I'll give the Cowboys credit in terms of that. In terms of they found a way to win a game ugly. Ugly W's over pretty L's every day. But the Cowboys were not good yesterday. This was kind of they do this every now and then where they'll just lay a complete egg against a team that you're like, how are the Cowboys losing to this team? I think the Cowboys are due for a loss here soon. They've won 4 in a row, but they do this all the time where they get all this hype and then all of a sudden they slowly start coming back to the pack. Then they get picked off and then they'll pick somebody else off and they'll get the hype again. So that's how, I mean, I've been watching this with the Cowboys for years and years.
Yeah, it is kind of a cyclical thing or a slinky type of a thing. Like expand and contract. So
yeah,
this was part of the expansion, or I don't know what part it would be, but yeah, this is the part where they start to give it away a little bit.
Ask Jerry.
But they are 10-3.
They are.
I mean, when we talk about them in the same breath as the Bills, as the Vikings. We'll see what the power rankings say as far as how we feel this 10-3 record really is.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, unfortunately, 11-1. Certainly not anything that they want to be proud of. They do have a young receiver. Well, not I say young receiver. The dude's been around since 2016, but Chris Moore stepped in nicely for an injured Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks, catching 10 of his 11 targets for 124 yards on the day. Dameon Pierce, I mean, got 78 yards, but couldn't get a couple more to get in the end zone when you really needed it. He did get in the end zone once, but Davis Mills, 16 of 21 for 175 yards. And then we also saw his backup pop in for a second too, right?
Yeah, no, in and out there. Pierce, I was hoping that he would knock that in at the last 5 minutes there to put the game away, but he was solid. He's been solid all year for the Houston Texans.
Yep. No, I love him, especially as a fantasy manager. I went out of my way to get him. So I'm very happy that he's not on the taxi squad. He's actually in the starting lineup. Dak, 24 of 39, 284, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not really a fantastic day for him. Zeke carrying the ball, 15 for 62 and a touchdown. Obviously that one big touchdown. Dalton Schultz, in a world where CeeDee Lamb is a thing, leads all Cowboy receivers or pass catchers rather. 6 catches, 87 yards for Dalton Schultz. Better days, obviously, as they say, are ahead for the Cowboys. But they'd like to put this one in the rear view.
Yeah, no doubt. But hey, give them credit for finding a way to win a game because they have lost that kind of game in the past.
Yeah. Oh, they certainly have. Which, shout out to them to find a way to win. All right, 45.5, the over-under. Obviously, they covered that with their 50-point performance between the two. All right, let's move on to the AFC West. Another 10-3 team, the Kansas City Chiefs. You want to talk about finding a way to win one? This was it, as they almost, and I say almost in a way that I don't know that they probably could have lost, but there were parts of this game where it kind of felt like it might have been slipping away from the Chiefs. Beating the Broncos 34-28. The Broncos were 9.5, some places 12.5 point underdogs on this. But obviously they covered, or did they? No. Yeah, they covered that large spread. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like a lot closer than it should have been, right?
Yeah, no, this was a weird game. Kansas City goes up 27-0. Right off the bat, and then all of a sudden we got a ball game nail biter midway through the third quarter where it's 27-21, and Russell Wilson actually probably played his best game of his Denver Bronco career so far. The Chiefs lack consistency as well so far. I mean, they're not playing their best football right now either. Looking at what they are, I mean, kind of a reflection of that is they're 4-9 so far against the spread. For a team that's 10-3, that's not very good. And we've seen the Chiefs over the years kind of mess around in these kind of games where Mahomes throws 3 interceptions, just being plainly careless.
Yeah, and he almost did it again, just gave the ball or gave the whole game away. 352, 3 touchdowns on 28 completions. I mean, that's fantastic, but he throws 3 interceptions. But the leading receiver in this game was Jerick McKinnon. Obviously had that big 56-yard catch, 2 touchdowns on the day on 7 catches, 112 yards. I mean, again, it's not Kelsey, right? Mm-hmm. It's not Juju. It's not anybody that should be. It's their second running back. And their first running back, Pacheco, gets 70 yards on 13 carries, which, it's a Kansas City Chief running back number. But Pacheco's been doing a lot better lately. And this game, he couldn't get going the way we've seen him before.
Yeah, no, just lack of consistency from Kansas City.
Yeah. And it's probably going to continue through the season. My brother texted me too. Why am they were up 27-0. He goes, why am I still nervous when my team is up 27-0? Tell me why. And I was like, because we've watched too much football. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, he goes, this is why. I was like, yeah, this is exactly why.
It's football. No, it's the NFL. Every game it's a 60-minute fight, and we've seen so many crazy comebacks, especially this year.
Yeah, and then again, this is an opportunity where Russell Wilson probably could have done it. 247, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not bad for him. Jerry Jeudy, 3 touchdowns, caught all of Russell Wilson's touchdowns. So if you're a Jerry Jeudy manager in the playoffs, you are probably going through to the next round.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, 44 was the over-runner on this. Crushed that. Almost got there alone by the Chiefs. So obviously the over hit on this one. All right, let's talk about them Carolina Panthers, shall we? I love me some Carolina Panthers because they made it easier for San Francisco to stay in first place in the NFC West, beating the Seattle Seahawks 30-24. Carolina now 5-8. Seattle 7-6. Carolina came in as 3.5-point underdogs. I saw a couple spots where they were 6-point under, or never mind, they were 4-point underdogs, not 6. But they covered the 3.5-point spread. And more importantly, Ryan, just like we talked about earlier, they're in the playoff picture.
Yeah, no, they control their own destiny. And this was a big win for my team, too, with the wild card race. So good. This game was good for both of us. The Carolina all of a sudden sneakily has won 3 out of 4. They've covered in 4 straight, kind of changed their identity over the last couple games with Steve Wilkes as the head coach. They're running the ball right down team's throat. They're peaking at the right time. I mean, they're playing good football. It's going to be interesting. They got the Steelers and Lions at home now. A little momentum coming back to Carolina before the big showdown on New Year's Day against Tampa Tom.
Lock that one in, though. That one's a must-see event.
I mean, if I ask you right now who's playing better football, Carolina or Tampa, I'm taking Carolina.
It's not even close.
Yeah,
That's
no.
the sad part.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's going to be interesting to see these Panthers coming down the stretch. Definitely, if I had to give out a game ball yesterday, I'll give it out to Carolina going to the 12th man and getting a big win.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to win in Seattle, and everybody will tell you that. But, the dream that was Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks are starting to come back down just a little bit there to the earth. And, I mean, look, not for nothing, but when you talk about the Seahawks, Geno Smith, 21 of 36, 264, 3 touchdowns. That's great. I mean, Marquise Goodwin was the leading receiver there, 5 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. But, Tyler Lockett luckily had something, but DK Metcalf, like all of these guys that are supposed to be fantastic for him now down the stretch are starting to fade.
Yeah, no, and they miss Kenneth Walker. Their defense, though, has been the big issue. I mean, Pete Carroll's defense, they went through a stretch there where they were playing really good defense because they started out a little slow on the defensive side. It was the Geno show in September that was balling out. And then in October, they kind of tightened it up a little bit. But ever since that Germany trip, they have not been a good defensive football team.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the bad bratwurst, maybe too much beer, who knows? Yeah. But yeah, it's not been the same for them, and that's all right. For me, that's fine.
Hey, we'll both take it. And like it's kind of a common theme right now. 2 teams headed in the opposite direction. Seattle seems to have kind of peaked a little bit, and they're kind of on the way down. Compared to Carolina, it seems to be peaking at the right time and maybe bound for an NFC South berth if they can get by Tampa in a couple weeks.
Again, that is the new NFC West. The NFC South is the new NFC West, where all those teams were like 7-9 or whatever, trying to fight for the division. That's not happening anymore. Seattle, losers of 3 of their last 4. The Panthers, winner of 3 of the last 4. So just like you said, 2 different directions, and it's up to Carolina now to figure out what the rest of their identity is and how much Sam Darnold factors into this.
Yeah, no doubt. A team, they didn't play yesterday. A team that's got to be kicking themselves is the New Orleans Saints. Giving away that game against the Bucs. they would be right in this division race, and they have enough talent. They just have been so up and down, and just weird team, weird quarterback situation with Andy Dalton too.
I know. They probably want Taysom Hill all up in that.
Yeah.
All right, 44.5, the over-under on this one. They beat that by 10 points, so the over is the winner there. All right, I'm going to get to the game that I want to talk about the most, and that is the San Francisco 49ers holding serve at home 35-7 against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. San Francisco, no surprise. They were the favorites by about 3.5 points, depending on where you're at. But the fact that they were only 3.5 point favorites, I think, is where the surprise was, given how doesn't matter now who's under center for San Francisco. They're just going to win games. And it's because they've got Christian McCaffrey. It's because they've got Deebo Samuel. It's because they've got Brandon Ayuk. Now, obviously, Deebo Samuel left with a really bad-looking injury. I did not see any updates on him. I've been looking. Maybe it's because I didn't look recently, but maybe you have some insight on Deebo Samuel. But the big story is Brock Purdy coming in. He didn't throw for very much. In fact, his over-under was set at 205. He had 180 some odd yards in the first half. All he needed was to throw for 21 more yards in the second half. Didn't do it. Finished with 185 yards, but 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, it sounds like Deebo might be back for the playoffs, so that's good news for you.
That's
yeah. Yeah, because he gives their offense a whole different element. Tampa's done. I'm going to say it right now. Tampa Bay's done. They're not going on a magical run with talent. I know they got Tom Brady. This is not a good football team. Just watching them the last couple weeks, I know they pulled out that miracle Monday night game where they pulled 14 points in the last 2 minutes to steal from the Saints. Before that, they got beat by the Browns, Jacoby Brissett. And now they go out to San Fran, and they lose 35-7. It wasn't even that close. I mean, they had to turn off the game locally and put on the Seahawks and Panthers because it was such an ass whipping that the Niners were putting on them. So shout out to the Niners. Brock Purdy looked good, solid. He might be the new guy. You might have stumbled into a franchise quarterback that you didn't even see coming.
As much as I would love for that story to play itself out, I mean, as Mr. Irrelevant would become relevant in San Francisco, he'll probably be a starting quarterback somewhere if he can put together a good rest of the season. But I don't know that it's going to be San Francisco. Unfortunately, Trey Lance is still there, and I don't know that they are ready to move on from Trey. I don't think they want him to get Wally pipped. But look, should he stay on again? Should somebody not lure him away from the Niners next season, and something happens with Trey Lance, I don't think we're scared to start Brock Purdy. Obviously, I'm not scared to start Brock Purdy. The reason is this. When you look at the way he was able to diagnose what was happening on the field, there were times where he moved up into the pocket, looked so natural as far as where he just knew where to go. Like he had picked a spot and went there. He wasn't trying to dance around. He wasn't trying to, be cool. He knew where he needed to get into the pocket to give himself the best opportunity to throw the ball. He did that, and he completed the passes, right? And he was able to do just what he needed to do to keep the drive going. And that's really what you need. And then, of course, you hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey, who continues to rip the ball like nobody's business. 119 yards and a touchdown. Beautiful 38-yarder that he ripped off on 14 carries. It's kind of a recipe for success. And now the 49ers are sitting at 9-4, clear control of the NFC West. And, all he's got to do is hold serve to the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, no, crazy because they've won 6 in a row since right after the trade. He played the first game against Kansas City, but the first time he fully was engaged in the game plan, they've won 6 in a row, covered 5 out of 6. They're rolling. I mean, they're. I know the Eagles have the best record technically, but the Niners, I think, are the best team on paper in the NFC. Them and Dallas, and then Philly. I think that's definitely the tier 1 in the NFC.
I mean, look, as Niners fans, a lot of us were a little bit worried at 3-4, right? We were pretty much worried, or at 4-4, we were worried, and now we're not. So I'm very excited about this team's prospects going forward, and just deep into the playoffs. Hopefully, we'll see. If Brock Purdy ends up taking this team to the Super Bowl and for whatever reason winning the Super Bowl, I don't think you can ever hang him with Mr. Irrelevant ever again. Never, never.
I love the guy at Iowa State. And for you, Rod, you're only one game back in Minnesota for that 2 seed, which I think would be nice. It would be beneficial for the Niners to get the 2 seed, so you would have a home matchup in the wild card round and the divisional round.
It's so crazy to say that, but here we are.
Yep, no doubt.
Again, for Tampa, look, there's just no rhythm. Like, there's just absolutely no rhythm. Doesn't seem like Brady's heart is in it anymore. I mean, he gave up the world for this season to get beat by Mr. Irrelevant. At this point, I don't know what you do anymore. And look, I know I'm a guy that just sits here and does nothing out there on the football field, but I'm also a father and a husband and somebody who I don't know if I could have given all of that up for another season. And now to have this go, I don't believe in karma, but I believe in karma.
Yeah, no, it's a sad situation. It's definitely not worked out the way that he thought or wanted it to work out. They're done. They're done.
Yeah, they are. There's nothing. They're not mathematically eliminated, but whatever. Right?
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Careful what you ask for, guys. That's the lesson. All right, over-under on this one was 38. They got there at 42, but that was all San Francisco's doing. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the Sunday night game. Entertaining by and large, confusing, frustrating. Prop bettors were pulling their hair out left and right. But the Chargers end up beating the Miami Dolphins 23-17 in what had to have been, I think, maybe not statistically, but just by the eye test, Justin Herbert's best game of the season. 367 and a touchdown for Herbert. 51 times he put the ball up. But yeah, I mean, look, this was a Miami team that was showing its cracks, and now they got exploited.
Yeah, no, Justin Herbert's best game and Tua's worst game. Tua was awful last night. 10-28 for 140. This Dolphins magic seems to have kind of run its course a little bit here. I mean, me and J Mark did the AFC East preview in the preseason, and I pointed at a scheduling spot later in the year where they got 3 straight road games where they got to go to San Francisco, LA, now to Buffalo. They've already played the first 2 now, and they've gotten beat, and they've gotten dominated in both games. I know it ended up being a 1-possession score, but LA seemed to be up by 10 points the entire way. I don't think they're going to go to Buffalo and win. So you're looking at an 0-3 stretch here where all of a sudden you went from 8-3 and they were 1 game back Kansas City for the 1 seed to all of a sudden 8-6 coming down the stretch, and they got no momentum, and it's just a tale of 2 seasons for Miami right now.
And the frustrating thing for them is that it wasn't as if, so we just talked about Tom Brady not looking like he is enjoying things or even was in rhythm with any of his receivers. Tua looked the same way. He had no chemistry with anybody. And Tyreek Hill, he wasn't hitting him deep, right? I mean, there was a couple of throws there where he threw and Tyreek was looking around wondering where the pass was. There was no Jalen Waddle to speak of, right? We saw Wilson go down early with an injury and Mostert couldn't get it going. I had both of those guys to go over 49.5 yards each. Looked good for a hot second. Then Wilson goes down. Mostert was ripping off runs, but they stopped giving him the ball, obviously because of the game script. But at the same time, I still feel like they shouldn't have gone away from the run with the pass looking as suspect as it was. So, I mean, look, here's the thing. If you are a Chargers bettor, you are happy that they covered their 3.5-point spread. If you were a Miami bettor, obviously you didn't get there either. So just a frustrating game overall for the Dolphins. I don't know that you can write them off, though, because they still have way too much talent to completely say that they're going to go away.
Yeah, no, they're weird. I got their stuff pulled up. I mean, they started the year 3-0. Then Tua goes down. They lose 3 in a row. Then they run off 5 in a row to get to 8-3, but their schedule was extremely soft during that time with wins over Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, and Houston. Now, all of a sudden, the schedule's gotten a little hard. They've lost 2 in a row. It's 2 in a row going to become 5 in a row, and all of a sudden they're a 500 team. So it's going to be interesting. This team should be careful. They may miss the playoffs.
if the Chargers continue to roll like they are right now, they can
Yeah.
continue to climb the ranks too. So yeah, I mean,
And New England and New York are right on their heels as well. And they play them the last 2 weeks of the season.
yeah, I mean, this is going to be a mad rush for those last few spots in the playoffs for sure.
No doubt.
Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, all these fantastic guys that support Justin Herbert. I mean, Keenan Allen making some clutch catches down the stretch, showing that he's still not necessarily all that done. But you know what? We buried the lead though, because there is an acquisition that I'm thinking of number 13's, an acquisition that the Cowboys just made. And they just signed, I'm blanking on it because I really just honestly saw it. And
Did it just happen?
It just happened. Yeah. A little bit ago, just before we started to record, and they just signed, it was number 13.
T.Y. Hilton.
There you go. T.Y. Hilton. Good.
I didn't see that. I missed that.
Yeah. No, they just signed T.Y. Hilton. So we're talking about
Interesting.
number 13s that are there, and they passed on OBJ. So that was another 13 that they passed on. But they signed T.Y. Hilton. Speaking of aged receivers with number 13.
That's the Cowboys' way of doing it.
It is. So anyways, yeah, that's talk about that. They've got now T.Y. Hilton to the Cowboys. But for 13 in the powder blue and white and gold, I think it's great. Mike Williams caught all 6 of his targets for 116 yards and a touchdown. But the Chargers, like we said, man, they're finding their way to make themselves in that conversation once more. And I think if Justin Herbert can continue to find some sort of, I guess, swagger again, the rest of this bottom tier of the AFC is in trouble.
No, I agree. Herbert was awesome last night. I know we kind of went in a rant about how bad Miami was, but Herbert on the other end, he looked like Justin Herbert again last night.
Sure did. All right. Well, I think that wraps up week 14. Obviously still a game on the slate to play on Monday night. And we'll watch that intently to see how the week figures out. But let us move now to our week 16 look aheads, right? We are on week 15 coming up. Yep. Week 16 look aheads. Again, where do we find these look aheads? We find them on the odds trader website, oddstrader.com, where they'll give you which book to look at and what the lines are. But first, let's look at how we did in our last look ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so we actually gave out Seattle plus a 3.5 against San Francisco, and they still are 3.5, so we didn't lose any value there. So interesting to monitor that line going forward. I know San Francisco is as hot as they get, or as hot as they come out there right now, and Seattle seems to be reeling a little bit, so monitor that line. Saturday, we gave out Minnesota in a pick. They are now -4 against the Indianapolis Colts at home. I know we say the Vikings are a little bit fraudulent, but still we like 4 points of value there against the Indianapolis Colts. We gave out Dallas -3 in Jacksonville. They're now up to -5, even with Jacksonville in that impressive win. So if that win hadn't happened, it would have been probably closer to a touchdown, I think. Another one we gave out easily, Philly -3.5 at Chicago. They're now -8.5. So that was an easy one. We gave out Kansas City -10 in Houston. They're now 2 touchdown favorites, -14. Skip ahead to Monday night. We had Green Bay in a pick'em against the LA struggling Rams. This was before Baker Mayfield got there. It still is up to 7.5 in Lambeau. So hit the value there. We did miss on one, and that was the Pittsburgh Steelers are now we gave out +1 in Carolina. They are actually a 2.5 point dog now in Carolina with the all of a sudden surging Carolina Panthers.
I would keep an eye on that one too. That one may do more moving before it's all said and done coming into next week. So keep an eye on that one. We don't miss very often, but obviously when we do, we own it. But I still want to keep an eye on that one because that one seems a little suspect to me.
Yeah, I think we've missed maybe on 3 for the entire year.
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often.
No, it's a rare miss.
All right. Well, speaking of rare misses, let's not miss on this one. Where are we going to for your first one?
I will go to I'll keep fading the Bears. Sorry, J Mark. I'll take the Buffalo Bills -7 in Chicago. I think it'll be close to 10 by the time they play that game.
Yeah, that seems to be it. I mean, we talked about Buffalo being absolutely just here, there, and everywhere, but one thing is consistent. They do love to give them a decent sized cushion. So I'll take that as well. I want the Jacksonville Jaguars, believe it or not. I've got them here at +1.5, +2.5, depending on where you find it. But I like the +1.5 part of this because they may actually be favorites by the time
against Jets.
Yeah, against the Jets rolling around next week. We just talked about how the Jets are very underwhelming right now and don't have a lot going on and not necessarily the team that we thought they were going to be going forward. So, but Jacksonville put together a couple more wins, put together a win next week. They could very well flip this to be favorites, and you could get them at underdog price right now.
Yeah, no, I like that one as well. For my next one, I will go to this one. I've seen the Steelers as a dog at home against Vegas. +1.5. I'll take Steelers. I think they'll be favored by a close to field goal come kickoff in a week from now.
Yeah, I mean, with the way the Raiders have looked, they got a lot. I mean, does Derek Carr need to have another emotional breakdown? Did that last one wear off?
It only lasts 3 weeks.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you did another one, so that way it'll go another 3 weeks. It'll be, that one will do it. All right,
no doubt.
I'm going to move. This Cincinnati New England game is a pick'em right now
some
spots. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to continue to stay that way. I don't know how you could be a pick'em against New England with Cincinnati being 9-4 and actually proving that they could put together a decent run. So I'm taking that Cincinnati pick'em because I think they're going to be at least 3-point favorites, maybe even more after next week.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I touched on it with Carolina for my next one. I like them. They're playing well, but them laying 4 is too many points against these Detroit Lions who are surging. I'll take the Lions +4 at the Carolina Panthers. I think that'll be close to a pick'em come game time.
Yeah, the Lions, man. Again, we're making this case for the Lions. It's just
Lions
it's crazy.
And Jags.
Lions and Jags. Well, let me make another point. We talked about as far as covering the spread, and that's Kansas City. They're coming in as 10.5-point underdog or favorites rather against underdogs. Jesus Christ, 10.5-point favorites against the Seattle Seahawks, but they can't cover. Like that's been the thing with the Chiefs is that they can't cover. So this is probably going to end up moving. So I'm on the Seattle side of this. If you can grab it at +11, because I don't think it's going to stay there, or +10.5. I don't think it's going to stay there. And if it moves up, then grab it there too. But yeah, I don't think it's going to stay at a double-digit spread.
Yeah, no, I like that angle as well. There's some other good games as well. Philly and Dallas both play. Washington, San Francisco both play too that week, Rod. So you got some potential playoff previews in week number 16, but we got to get through week number 15 first.
We sure do. Is that it? Is that all of them are allotted?
Yep.
Allotted number?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was our 6-pack.
Okay, great. Ooh, I love it. So, all right, go over it one more time for everybody. That way we can put a nice little bow on that.
I will hold on. I'm pulling it right back up. We were giving out Jacksonville +2.5 at the Jets. We are giving out Cincinnati -1 in New England. We are giving out Buffalo -7 in Chicago. We are giving out Detroit +4 in Carolina. Giving out Seattle +11 in Kansas City. And then finally, but not least, we are giving out Pittsburgh +2 at home against Vegas.
There it is, folks. Week 15 early lines. I'm sorry, week 16 early lines. 15? 16?
Yeah, 16. Yep.
Yeah, week 16. We were there. Can't even count anymore. All right. Anyways, definitely lock those in. Like I said, we very rarely steer you wrong on these ones. So hopefully you've been making a little money off of them. But all right, Ryan, that'll do it for the Monday show. I think we've cleanly gone over everything we need to for everybody and just had a great time doing it. So before we leave, why don't you remind everybody where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, right there on the screen for the YouTube crowd. Twitter @Moneyline_Mac, in the Discord as well. Like Rod said, we're already in week 15. So we're coming down the stretch, last quarter of the year. So still 4 weeks to pick out some winners.
Yes, sir. And we're going to continue to do it for you. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's in between media. It's all there for you on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Make sure you listen to the NFL Gambling Podcast throughout the rest of the week as Ryan will join you once more and all the other star-studded cast in the SGPN world. We'll break down week 15 for you in the NFL. We'll see you back here again next Monday to break down 15, give you a week 17 look ahead. So until then, good luck, everybody. Have some fun. Watch some football. Enjoy Monday Night Football. And until next time, let it